Okay, 7:03. I'm running about 3 minutes late. I apologize. Jenny, can you hear me? Am I coming through?
I can hear you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
I can.
Great, thank you very much. Again, I'm sorry that I was running here a little late. I hope I didn't keep you waiting too long. And okay, so I see Ashley Terry is joining us as well. So thank you very much. Okay, we'll get started. Hope everybody's doing well. And it's again, this is LDR 300 leadership, and this is Thursday, the 19th of June, 2025. And the normal framework that I do these Zoom sessions, I'll adhere to. In other words, I'll talk probably too long, but I'm going to go ahead and cover a couple things and open it up for questions as soon as I'm done. What I'd like to do is, since you could see my screen, um, again, this is your opening scene of Moodle. A couple things I'd like you all to check. One is I just posted an admin note under announcements. I'd like you to check that. Essentially, what I'm asking everybody to do is go check your grade book. And if you're seeing a missing grade or a zero, um, then that means I haven't received your work or I've made a mistake. And I can never discount the latter. So if you see a zero or no grade, that means there's a problem. If you did submit the work, then let me know by email so that I can fix it. If you did not submit the work, then that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but that isn't unexpected. Some people don't do all the work. But if this is something that we've talked about, then I need you to execute your plan that we discussed for me to accept your work. If there's a was an issue and you didn't get the work submitted, and we have not talked about it, then by all means give me a contact. But don't let that continue on much longer because we're getting close to the end. So we get into week 6. Things are going to be very busy because you've got a paper due, you got some work due, a quiz to do, and I have to turn that final paper grade and or the leadership paper grade around quickly and post your final grades within just 2 days of the course ending. So by Friday of that last week, I've got to have your final grades in. So we don't have time to be messing around. Okay. So again, please check that. All right, week 4, everybody's tracking. It's continue. It's finished. We're now into week 5. You will be posting, obviously, your leadership discussion forum here in a couple days, and or if already, and then get your summary reports in and take the quiz. So nothing has changed in our normal routine. Real fast, I'll take a look here, week 5. And again, you've always got the what the lesson will cover, the module learning objectives, which there are 6. You're to read chapters 12, 13, and 14. We start getting into power influence. Um, we start getting into servant leadership, start talking about shaping culture in an organization. And so the weekly discussion forum is 2 questions. We bring out Lord Acton's quote of power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I'm asking you, what do you agree with Lord Acton in this? And if you do, give me 2 reasons. If you do not, give me 2 reasons. So there's no advantage if you agree or disagree. So you still got to give me 2 reasons why. And then I ask additional question on that is it ethical for leaders to try to increase their power? Okay, if absolute power corrupts absolutely, then should a leader try to increase their power? And again, 2 reasons why you think or do not think it's ethical. So got to think through this one a little bit. All right. And no, agreeing and disagreeing, or I have no opinion, doesn't quite cut it. I need you to you need to take a stand and give me your reasons for it. Okay. All right. And then in chapter 13, we start talking about subordinate leadership, how followers use courage in 5 ways. I'm going to ask you to pick which one of those 5 the courage to is the most important, in your opinion. Identify that type of courage and then elaborate on it. Why did you pick that particular one? And give me at least 2 reasons why or how you can build in your organization um, the ability for those subordinates to develop and exhibit this courage. In other words, identify the courage, tell me why you picked that one, and then how would you develop in your organization? And you need to go into some little detail on this, please. If one is the courage to speak up, and you pick that one, and then you tell me, I will build in my organization the ability of people to speak up by improving communication, period, and that you end it there, you didn't quite answer the question. In other words, more specifically, how would you do that? How would you improve communication? Okay. So, practical measures, if you will. So think through these a little bit. Again, keep doing a good job. You all are answering the questions, and it's showing. So keep at it. And sorry, I came all the way out, and I didn't mean to. Your summary reports is 12.3, 13.3, and 14.2. So again, 3 of them to do. And we'll get to the importance of these here in just a second when I talk about the final paper. All right. And then, of course, those are due on Monday evening at 23:59 at the latest. You can turn them in now if you got them ready. Please don't miss the deadline. We've had some people do that here of late, and we need to figure out what's going on. The timelines haven't changed, so if there's an issue that I need to be aware of, please let me know. Otherwise, please try to make the timeline. Excuse me, I needed to take a drink of some tea there for a second. All right, week 5 quiz, the norm. I'll release the questions at noon on Friday, the 20th. The questions are derived from the text, specifically chapters 12 through 14. The quiz focuses on chapters 12 through 14. So there is no questions of previous chapters, obviously, or of chapters you have not read. You are given 1 attempt. You need to be ready to take the quiz and not be interrupted. So far, everything seems to be everybody's able to do that. You may use your course materials, meaning the text, the exercises, the PowerPoint presentations if you wish. But I ask that you not collaborate with other students. In other words, do your own work, please. Try to have that quiz done by Tuesday night, 24 June. All right. So that covers week 5. And then, of course, right after week 5, we have week 6, and we're on the home stretch here, folks. So that's hard to believe. It goes by fast sometimes. All right. Let's talk this final paper here. And you will find that under chapter 6, or I'm sorry, module 6. And it is the link for it to upload your paper is right after the summary report. Here it is, leadership effectiveness paper. Okay, in my weekly announcements, I describe what's due. It is verbatim to what you see here in Moodle. I also just recently sent you or posted on the announcement section the grading rubric I will use to grade your paper. I will show you that rubric here in just a second or minute. But first, let me tell you a broad view of the paper. Okay, and this is worth 30% of your grade. So this is worth 300 points total. So take the time on this. The purpose is for you to demonstrate your understanding of leadership by applying the concepts from the class to your personal life and professional career. You're going to present your understanding of those concepts and then illustrate a plan of action, how you will implement those concepts into your future leadership experience. Okay, Now, you have been doing these leadership practice, know yourself exercises and writing a summary report. Why? Because each of those exercises covers an important concept from your text. So you've already started your paper by doing those exercises. You have identified in those exercises your strengths and weaknesses. You've identified what you'd like to work on or not, and what this does for you as a leader and how it improves your organization as such. So we're going to use some of those summary reports in helping craft your paper. All your papers should be proofread, please. In other words, yes, do your spell check. Yes, do Grammarly. Check your grammar. Again, this isn't an English class. I'm not an English major. I'm not an English instructor, but we do the basics of spelling words right, using the right word choice, proper punctuation, please. And after you've done all that and got your paper, proofread it. Read it through to make sure that you have no homophobe words. In other words, words that sound the same but are different. And you've properly used your words and it makes sense in what you've written. Use proper citations if you do a reference. And of course, I want you to try to follow current APA standards as best you can. Have this in the Moodle by no later than 23:59, 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, the 29th of June. And again, you can upload that paper now if it's ready. So I don't necessarily encourage you to. I'd like you to make sure it is ready before you upload it. But certainly let's not try to wait till the last minute and then have a glitch. Okay, you'll need to put a cover sheet on this paper. In other words, subject, title, course number, and your name. And I want you to include a table of contents, please. And those table of contents should cover the 7 important pieces of your paper. I'll show you that in just a minute. I give you a measure of about 7 to 8 pages. Again, I don't grade based on word count or page count. If you can cover all the material that's required in less than 7 pages, then by all means do so. I don't think you can, but I'm always open to surprises. If it takes you more than 8 pages, in other words, say 14 to 15, that's fine as long as you're not just filling space. No need to put in any type of graphics. There is no presentation, despite what visual aid presentation that I put on that subject line for some reason. That used to be in the seated course, you would submit your paper, but you would provide a PowerPoint demonstration to the rest of your students on what your paper covered. We're not doing that in this class. You don't have to present a visual aid or presentation. So don't worry about any PowerPoints. Certainly don't put any graphics in your paper. There's no need for that. Double space, 1-inch margins, 12-point font, please, Times New Roman. And again, generally do the APA format to include, I recommend, hint, hint, use of paragraph headers. These should address all your points and assist your reader, which would be me. Use of paragraph headers, I think, helps you organize your paper. Make sure that you've covered all the aspects of it. In other words, if you use a paragraph header that says introduction, a paragraph header that says importance of effective leadership, a paragraph header that then says leader development, a paragraph header that says define and discuss 3 major leadership concepts, a paragraph header that says strengths and weaknesses, a paragraph header that says employment of strengths and developing leadership weaknesses, and a paragraph header that says developing others. Again, 3 methods, please. And a final paragraph header that says conclusion. Then you will be in good shape. Please don't miss any of these because that will cost you points. You have already done the summary report, so go back and look at those. Pull out 3 of them that really caught your eye or really intrigued you the most, that you think were important to you and that you want to elaborate upon. And in those, you can use what you did in the summary report to talk about your strengths and weaknesses and your leadership plan. So, in other words, you've done some of this work already. All right. Okay. Uh, so let me pull up the grading rubric, and I just had to adjust what I posted in announcements. So if you downloaded this grading rubric, go back and redo it, please, because there was an error on it. I shortchanged you on the points. This paper is worth 300 points, and I only added up to 30. So I've added a zero at the end of everything. It doesn't materially change everything, but at least lets you know that to get 100% on your paper, you'll have to score 300 points. How will you do that? Well, first is predominantly content. Okay, that's going to cover 210 points. That's the majority of your paper. And every section that I talked about, all 7, intro, leadership importance, concepts, strengths and weaknesses, leadership plan, developing others, and that all important conclusion are worth 3 points. I'm sorry, that should say 30. Doggone it, I didn't catch that. But it's a total of 210, okay? 7 times 30, right? Okay. So that's the crux of your paper right there. Within that, we still have to communicate effectively. So it'll be 10 points each for a position statement. Okay, remember the most important part of your paper, your position, and the conclusion or the evidence used to support that. In this case, your leadership position is to be an effective leader. I believe there are 3 important concepts, and then you would elaborate those 3 that I mentioned. Okay, the support, in other words, how well you support that position, the structure of your paper, use of syntax and construction, and your ability to use transitions to the paragraphs. Okay, and then 10 points each for a total of 40 on style and grammar. Originality, in other words, using your words as much as you can. The tone of your paper, the rhetoric you use. Okay, don't load up on a bunch of jargon. Don't use a lot of slang, right? Let's consider what we're presenting here. And the mechanics of your paper and punctuation. So again, you got 210 points in content, 50 points in organization structure, 40 points in style and grammar. Even though I went to DoD schools, I think that all adds up to 300 points. And this is where the grades will add up, and that'll give you your total points for the paper. All right. Okay, I'll go back and fix that. Doggone it, I thought I had it right, and I apologize again for that. But again, I don't think it substantially changes what we're doing here. Okay, with that, I am going to open it up to any questions. Anybody?
I was just going to say, I actually don't have any. I do like how you detailed out that rubric, because most professors, it's not as detailed. So I like how you really laid it out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Jenny, and appreciate you bringing that up. It's important to understand what to expect and what the instructor expects. So essentially, there shouldn't be any surprises. Again, since I have to grade your paper in such a quick turn, even though there's always time for concerns and certainly raise them if there are, you only got a couple days. In other words, the paper's due on Sunday, the course ends on Wednesday, and I have to have your grades in no later than Friday. So it's there's not much time to be messing around here. So Forewarned is forearmed. At least you should see what it is. You kind of know what I'm looking for. You've been writing in this course now for 4 weeks, and you've done a lot of writing. I know it's a lot. That's just the nature of this beast, I guess. In particular, since it's an online course, there's not much way of doing any oral arguments, obviously. But I think there should be no surprises. And again, I'm not an English major. So, I want to make sure everybody understands that the critical piece of this paper is what you have to say and what you present. You're in fact presenting in large measure an argument. You're telling me what goes into effective leadership. When you identify those three concepts, that should be in your mind. Three leadership concepts that are critical to you that you think are important for an effective leader. And then you assess your strengths and weaknesses on those concepts. We certainly don't want to detract from our strengths, and we obviously want to improve our weaknesses. So then, if you've identified those weaknesses, then we should have some actual knowledge of what is your plan to improve those. And then, because this is a leadership class, I certainly want to hear or read what you have to say on how you will plan to improve the effectiveness of others within that realm of leadership that you've identified. So, again, it's not a research paper. You're not going to be able to necessarily go into the text and find answers. So that's why you probably won't have many references. Um, not not a requirement. I certainly think if you do list a reference, it should come from your textbook, because again, remember all these what we call marked requirements. In other words, things you've been graded on: the quiz, the summary reports, your discussion forum. Obviously, this paper is going to come from the text because that is our baseline. That's where we're coming from. And as in the case of any course you take, when you're getting a grade, you are being evaluated on how well you've met the course objectives, which are, again, based on that textbook. So that's not to say you can't use another reference. You can bring in another reference. I just ask you to be careful on that, because in large measure, um, I certainly want you to use other people's words if you need to. Obviously, Lord Acton's quote is an example, but that should just be a bridge to you discussing that uh, from a leadership perspective. In other words, giving me what you think and your argument uh, to that uh, to that reference if you use it. I hope that makes some sense. Okay. Um, Anybody else? Ashley or Terry, are you on this at all?
I don't have any questions. I think you covered everything that I initially had going into this meeting. So thank you for covering everything.
Well, good. Thank you, Ashley. And I'm sorry I missed you last week. I tried to put the word out. I had to cancel the session, and I believe I may have left you high and dry. So I apologize for that. Hope it didn't cause you any inconvenience. All
Yes,
right. Oh, go
same for
ahead.
me. I didn't have any. I was mainly going to ask about the paper, and you covered most of it with the rubric. So, thank you so much for that.
Okay. Well, good, Terry. I appreciate that, and I hope I covered at least most of it and didn't overload. In other words, just look at the requirement and let it fly. Okay. There's some specifics in there that I want you to focus in on. But again, this should be in part fun. Consider this kind of an ability of you to write a manifesto, if you will. Uh, and despite people using violence to get what they want, and then issuing a manifesto, it tends to get a bad name. Uh, it's more of just your gospel according to Terry in this, in other words. So, have some fun with it. Is I guess my point.
Yeah, I mean that getting that clarification definitely changes the way I'm viewing it. Instead of just like to you, like you said, it's not a research paper, it's more what I am doing about my leadership goals, how I approach it, and going forward, how I'm going to be better. So,
Yeah, good. That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, yes, I obviously want you to describe in there, how, what, why is important, why is leadership important? And I certainly want you to identify, three leadership concepts. So from that standpoint, uh, yeah, I mean, there's a little research, if you will, that goes into that because, what is the definition of leadership? You probably want to include um, real briefly. And certainly you want to identify the concepts, but I don't want you to go in and teach me the concepts, if you will. In other words, don't use the crux of your paper, to regurgitate what the text says about whatever leadership concept that you brought up. Uh, More so, think through. We all know the material now, so that's why, yes, I want you to pull it apart and tell me what this means to you and how it impacts you. Um, if you have all strengths and no weaknesses, obviously that changes the paper slightly. You would then obviously talk about your strengths and give me something at least. Don't just leave that paragraph blank and say, "Well, I have no weaknesses, so I'm not going to talk about it." That doesn't quite track. Um, but just lay it out there and give me you. All right, good. Well, listen, I look forward to reading it. I'll let everybody know I read your papers three times each. And for 20 to 30 of you, that becomes a lot of reading. But you put the time in, you deserve at least somebody who reads your paper at a minimum a couple times. First time I read through them, I'm getting a general sense of what you've done, and I am checking off. Did you cover the seven areas that I discussed in there? Did you give me an introduction paragraph? Did you give me a concluding paragraph, etc.? I read a second time to go through the mechanics of it, looking at those things of spelling and capitalization and punctuation type errors, whether you used wrong word choice, um, run-on sentences and the like, and basic rhetoric. And then the third time, I just do again a broad overview reading as now I have read everybody's paper. I get a sense of how yours reads comparatively to others. Okay. No, I don't grade on a curve. I don't grade your paper based on somebody else's paper. But I've noticed sometimes in the past where I've grade a paper and I may have graded one a little bit rougher than I did on the third that I've read. Maybe I got worn down or had too much scotch when I was reading your paper. I'm kidding. I don't drink when I read your papers. Um, but in other words, I want to just get a sense of where everybody's at and basically ensure that a high grade that I've given on a paper is uh, is earned. Okay, and if I've given a low grade, there's obviously reasons for that. Um, I can't give you as much feedback on the paper as I probably wish. In many cases, for many of you, you do a good enough job. Your primary feedback is your grade, and if you've scored a high A, then there's not much feedback I can give you outside of a great job. Um, But again, if you met all those, if you hit the points, meaning the seven criteria that I gave you, you will do well. Okay. I tell people that uh, submitting something will still earn you points. That the only way you will fail this course is if you don't do the work. If you don't turn something in, then that's clearly 0 points. That's not to say that I am necessarily an easy grader. I don't think I am. Um, but I'm expecting a lot out of you on this paper and recognize that. So, go ahead and give it your best shot and spend some time on it. Believe it or not, um, now that I've read your work over the last 4 days, I could tell how you communicate. And so in the past, not necessarily in this course because it's a little tough, but in other courses, I've had people try to use somebody else to write their paper, for example. You used to be able to buy papers from, oh, I don't know, I think they were written in India, which is in English, but you could tell by the style and the word usage that that didn't come from the particular student that was submitting it. And the same goes true with AI. You can see when somebody has used that in their paper. And I just caution you on the use of things to help. Okay, obviously I've told you you can use spell check and Grammarly. So in a sense, you've used AI a little bit to help you in your paper, but try to communicate being you is I guess my point. So all right, I certainly don't uh, kick a dead horse, but I'll beat it when it's down. Is anybody got anything else?
I was just gonna say it was so funny when you said, I know it was a joke, but 2 or 3 scotches. And I was like, well, I started laughing out loud. I said, well, you can have 3 for mine, but I know I'm just joking. I'm joking.
I was
Well,
going to
fair
say
enough.
the exact same thing.
It was so funny.
Feel
Well,
free to drink late in mine.
Oh, go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry, I walked on you.
I said, feel free to drink when you're grading mine.
Okay.
It was so funny.
Well, I appreciate your sense of humor. That actually got me in trouble. We were at when I was gaining my master's degree. I had a lot of writing to do. We all did for this one professor. Really, really good man. We're friends today. Uh, Retired Air Force colonel, and it was a leadership class, and it was just a lot of writing on a weekly basis, just a lot. And I wasn't convinced he was able to read everybody's responses fully. I mean, we're talking each week, and these were pages of writing, at least 7 pages worth just on the normal weekly work. And so I inserted in there an analogy on pain versus reward, and talking about how you can spend the time writing your paper, which is painful, but you submit it and you get the reward of a grade. Or you can blow off the paper and drink scotch, getting the reward of some libation and relaxation. But you don't have a paper to turn in, and therefore the pain is going to be a bad grade. And so I put that in my response, and I was convinced that the professor wouldn't read it. And boy, he sure did, and he he let me know. So I'm always kind of careful, but I want to use that point to let you all know I do read your work, okay, and it's great because I get more out of you than you get out of me in this regard, and I'm genuinely interested, and I love what you all have to offer because I gain insights and knowledge that I didn't have. So appreciate your time and effort on it, and I encourage you to spend the time and effort. In large measure, I think this helps out you in the long run because it helps frame things that you'll do in the future, particularly when it's time to do, if you have to, what in the Marine Corps we would call a philosophy of command, same thing that other services have, I'm sure. But letting your people know, hey, what's important to you as the boss. Anyway, all right, and believe me, uh, I do have some scotch in the house, so I don't drink and drive. And I might have a few once I'm done grading your papers because that tends to cure the headaches. I'm just kidding. And I hope you all have a celebration when you're done with the course as well, but only after you get that final grade, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah, so my husband, real quick, he's in a doctorate's program and he's writing a dissertation and he's at OU, Oklahoma University. And when you were talking about pages a week that he has to write, it's books. Because they're essentially writing a book by the time you graduate and it goes upon a board. You have to present it to a board. But with that said, every professor reads everything that you write. So you saying that they read everything.
Yeah, and that's what should happen. I would be less than honest with you if I told you every professor does. Back when University of Mount Olive had satellite campuses, uh, I was asked to take over a class that was already in session up in New Bern because the instructor up there had been fired. And turned out that instructor wasn't even reading the papers, wasn't reading the homework. Now, how he was issuing a grade to each student, I have no idea. But it just when I was told about this, I thought somebody was joking with me because I can't conceive of somebody not doing their job in that regard. So uh, I'm heartened to hear OU is holding the line, and certainly yes, if he's going for a PhD, my goodness, he's got to be so detailed and in depth. It's almost frightening. So I please give your husband my encouragement. It's only a lot of writing if you do it as a joke, but certainly encourage him to keep charging through it and keep an eye on the prize because it's got to be difficult. I never went for my PhD. I don't think God, it would be kind of cool though. I thought having doctor in front of your name would be kind of neat. And then I would go by Dr. J, which was one of my favorite basketball players back in the old days. I don't know if people remember Julius Irving, who used to play. But I just thought Dr. J kind of had a ring to it. But that's an aside. So, wow, Jenny, you going and taking your lessons from a university and your husband doing his PhD, that's a lot of time and from both parents and adults in the house. So I don't envy you. I know it's rough, but again, if it was easy, then everybody would do it. So
Yeah, and it was just kind of a bucket list thing for him, really, him being in the military and then civil service now. And so it was just a goal bucket list kind of thing that he wanted to do. And I'm like, you got to do it. We're not getting any younger, especially when you get in your 40s. It's like, let's do it now. So,
yeah,
um, but and they do it completely different. Now they have more online doctoral programs than they ever did before since COVID, but they're long programs. Like this program is a 3-year program, and you have to show your face 1 to 2 times a week with these professors. It's set up, it is really, really set up, like it's intense. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. And you have to do the work and show the work. But they set you up for success. If you follow what these instructors tell you to do, you will do well. You just have to do the work and show up.
marvelous. No, that's outstanding. You said this is the University of Oklahoma
Yes,
or
yes, sir.
Oklahoma University, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
OU. Yes.
Go Sooners. All right. Well, that's tremendous. That's we have a saying. It was cooperate to graduate. Uh, and every student goes through that. Because you obviously got to give the instructor what he or she wants. Sometimes that's a trap because sometimes you get a less than effective instructor. I've had a few in my day, and you have to kind of make a decision if you're going to cooperate with what the instructor's looking for, or if you're going to stand on principle. Uh, and sometimes hard decisions have to be made. But that's part of life. You got to figure out what it is you're doing and why, and if it's requires you to take a stand, then take the stand. Yeah, marvelous. All right. Well, listen, it's 45 minutes already, a quarter to eight. I'm not going to hold you up any longer, and it's a pleasure talking with you all. And I encourage you on your work. Keep at it, and have a good week.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Tim.
night.
Good night. Ashley, thank you. Good night.